And welcome back, everybody. It's time for TinChattin number 3. It's like Mambo number 5, but better. He's Mike Maahs. I'm Justin Prince. Mike, welcome back inside the studio. We're staying dry today.
Yes, we're staying dry. Unlike the TinCaps last night in Peoria, where they got drenched and never even got to see a first pitch.
Yeah, so TinCaps got rained out Thursday night, so they're playing part of a doubleheader. Just showed you highlights of those games. Mike, let's look back at last week first, though. The good, obviously. The bats and the offense have seemingly come to life. The TinCaps certainly not a lack of offense to close the week last week. And then on top of that, they go out and win 3 of their final 4 games to split their series with the Lake County Captains.
That was the key, Justin. After losing your first 5, doubts start to set in. And that wacky 12-11 win last Friday was just that may have been a catalyst of sorts when we look back later on down the season to see how this team, whether they progress in a positive manner or not. But when you lose so often, you can get frustrated. And for them to come back and win 3 of the last 4 against the Captains, that's a good sign. I think they felt a little more comfortable. They got a little bit more confidence. Now, it may not look like it having lost the first 2 games in Peoria, but we talked about it before. This is a team that is right on the cusp of doing some really good things. They need just a couple of breaks to go their way. A hit to fall in, or an out to be made, or a key strikeout, or something. And that can maybe just get things going in the direction they want to go to.
Yeah, first 2 games in Peoria. Really, it's their first real road trip of the year, if we really want to call it that. Yeah, they had their little teaser up at West Michigan to open the season, but really that's a 3-game stretch. This is their first long road trip. This is their first 6-game road trip of the year. And honestly, it's not like the Bats went quiet these first 2 games over in Peoria. They lost 6-3 and 5-8, so they're still putting up some runs. I think they had 10 hits in the loss against Peoria there on Wednesday night. So they're still putting bat on ball. They just got to find a way to get some runners in when they got the chance.
That's the key. I told you before we started that I dabble every now and then. TinCaps have played 11 games coming into action today. 3 wins, 8 losses. In their 3 wins, they've collected 35 hits, scored 29 runs, and they are 14 for 37 with runners in scoring position. Not a bad average when you look at that.
No, not at all.
But in the 8 losses, they've only scored 16 runs on 46 hits. They've left 47 runners on base, and they're 11 for 52 with runners in scoring position. And you can't win a ball game when you're only basically 1 out of 5 in runners in scoring position. You got to bring them in. You can't leave all these runners on base, and that's where the key hits have to come through.
Yeah, and I got to reiterate, guys, it's early. It's still only 11 games into the season, so there's no need to panic yet. The pitching staff will figure its stuff out. They've had some troubles on the back end of the bullpen, but starting pitching, they've looked pretty decent. But again, it's early, Mike. Like they've jolted up the from a league worst when they started the year hitting wise. They've now jolted up to 8th, so almost middle of the pack. They're hitting .227 now as a team, and for example, a guy like Carlos Luis, who started the year I think 0 for 15 or something along those lines, he's now really technically leading the team, hitting .292 in his 8 games with 24 at-bats.
And you take a person like Jacob Marcy, the leadoff batter, who's got 11 hits, and he's got 4 stolen bases. And Lucas Dunn, we talked a little bit about him last week. He's got 10 hits. And Nathan Martorella, I think we need to talk about him a little bit today.
Absolutely.
He's got 9 hits, but he's also got 3 home runs and 7 runs batted in. And so it's starting to come into place. It's just a matter, one person can't beat 9, and they need more than 1 or 2 people in the lineup to come through with the key base hits at the key times.
Yeah, speaking of Lucas Dunn, Mike, hitting .263 so far here on the season in his second stint with the Fort Wayne TinCaps. 5 RBIs, no homers just yet. He had the go-ahead hit on Friday night. And really, he's a guy who's starting to see the ball well, hit the ball well, and a guy that they're kind of looking to be one of these guys that leads this team coming into the season.
And of his 10 hits so far, 3 doubles and 1 triple. So you're getting a little bit extra bang out of the buck for the hits that he's coming up with. And again, he played over 80 games in Fort Wayne last year. He's starting to utilize that experience of having been here in the Summit City knowing what high A baseball is like, knowing what Midwest League baseball is like, and now he's starting to more fully develop as a hitter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually got a chance to catch up with Mr. Lucas Dunn after Sunday's game, another win for the TinCaps. Here's what he had to say about his early season success.
I'm really just trying to keep it simple, honestly, just sticking to my approach, trying to not do too much. Learned a lot last year of probably more like what not to do. So sticking to what works this year. It's been going good.
And you mentioned your approach. For you, as your type of player, what would be your approach?
For me, it definitely helps to think right center, because then a lot of my energy will go into the ball. If I'm trying to pull the ball, a lot of times my front side will go left, and things just go bad.
How much more comfortable do you personally feel now than when you first got here last season?
Yeah, it's definitely an advantage to come in and have played a lot last year and come to the same park. So it's definitely a lot better coming this year. But like you said, just coming every day and practicing gives you that comfort.
All right, appreciate Lucas taking a few minutes for us after Sunday's big game. Mike, you said Nathan Martorell is the guy we needed to talk about. I absolutely would agree with that. 2 games so far against the Peoria Chiefs, and all Nathan Martorell has done is hit 2 home runs, both of them to the opposite field, too.
One of them a 3-run shot, which got the TinCaps back in the ball game.
Yeah.
He's definitely a project and a prospect, if you can understand the bit between the two. Big, solid, left-handed hitter. Obviously has a little bit of pop in the bat,
Yeah.
as evidenced by the 3 home runs. Again, one of the things he needs to work on, like every other hitter, reading the opposing pitcher and knowing when to lay off and when to swing the bat. And if you can get it, we've always talked about this in times past, Justin, the goal of a hitter is to hit the pitch the hitter wants to hit and not the pitch the pitcher wants him to hit. And if you're patient at the plate and you study, and by studying you watch when you're in the dugout, you look at film, whatever. You learn the tendencies of the opposing pitcher, and then you counteract with what you're good at and hopefully good at. And Nathan has done well so far up in Peoria.
Looking ahead to the rest of this week, obviously we've got 2 games left over in Peoria. Then, Mike, they're back home next week for a 6-game homestand with our friends from Great Lakes.
Loons are 6-6 entering play today in the Eastern Division. They've won 2 out of 3 against South Bend, and that East-West situation up there. And they won in the cold last night up in Midland. It didn't rain, but it wasn't warm either. It's going to be a fun week, as all hopefully home weeks are this year, on the field and off the field with a lot of the promotions, the usual, and just a chance to come out and enjoy downtown Fort Wayne, the TinCaps, and everything that we like to say is behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Looking forward to another week of TinCaps baseball. Hopefully, Devontae and Beverly can dial up a nice little forecast for us for next week, and we get some beautiful weather once again. That's going to do it for this edition of TinChattin', though. He is Mike Maahs, radio play-by-play voice of the Fort Wayne TinCaps. I am Justin Prince. We're back same time, same place next week. Elijah and I are back with more in the locker room right after this.